Hi guys, so this week instead of having a word of the day, we are going to have an idiom of the day and then we're going to do a little review of the words we have learned so far. So an idiom, which we'll talk about in a minute, is a phrase, okay? So it's a phrase that people commonly use. So this week, our idiom is between a rock and a hard place. Between a rock and a hard place. Ask yourself if you've heard of that before. All right, now the reason this is our idiom of the week is because it's an idiom that actually comes from the Odyssey. It's a reference to the Odyssey. And idioms are those types of things where it's a phrase everyone says and people use it so often that they forget where it even came from. And so that's why this one's really interesting because it comes from the Odyssey. So when Odysseus leaves Circe, which we will read about this week, he knows he is going between a rock and a hard place. So this phrase originally sort of comes from a physical journey. Odysseus is going to be leaving a goddess and he is going to have to travel between a rock, which is an actual cliff where a monster lives, and a hard place. The hard place is a whirlpool. So he has to take his ship between a big rock with a monster on it and a hard place, a place that is very hard to navigate and survive. So because of this task Odysseus was faced with, we now have the phrase between a rock and a hard place, which means an impossible choice. So as we'll see when we read this week, Odysseus is going to face an impossible choice. He's going to have to get his ship between this rock and this hard place, and he has to make a very difficult decision to figure out what to do. So like I said, the phrase between a rock and a hard place is now an idiom. So an idiom is a phrase that is commonly used. So it's something that people say all the time that you would hear people just say in casual speech. But it has a figurative, metaphorical, or non-literal meaning. So what that means is when you say, oh, I was trapped between a rock and a hard place, you don't literally mean like you were crushed between a rock and like another hard place. A lot of times people think that it means like you're smashed between two things, but it's not like you had a rock one way and the other way you had a whirlpool like Odysseus did. So we don't mean we were physically trapped somewhere, but what we mean is that we were facing a difficult choice, that we were facing two obstacles. So I came up with some examples because your discussion question for the week is going to ask you like to think about a time when you were trapped between a rock and a hard place. So I tried to come up with some examples that hopefully will like be able to connect to your life. And this is your teacher making these, so you can make better ones. My first one is that your rock could be you miss your friends because you can't see them at school due to virtual schooling. And the hard place could be like, well, maybe you could try to see your best friend, but you know that her family doesn't have the same beliefs that your family might have about masks and the virus. And so there's a challenge there. Another rock and obstacle is that you might have to work at home sharing an office with your husband and you have to monitor your son's virtual school. Your mom might offer to help watch your children, but she might have been exposed to COVID-19. What do you do? You could be feeling like, I miss my friends and I'm so sick of being trapped in my house. But at the same time, like you're kind of scared to go out. You know some people are out, you see people out, you've heard things, you've seen things on social media, but like you're kind of scared and you've been quarantined for so long. Do you want to risk it? Some pre-quarantine life problems we might have faced is like maybe all of your friends want to participate in an activity, go to a place, join a club. Like maybe they all want to go to a basketball game, or they all want to go eat a certain place, they all want to be in a certain club, and you don't want to. But then your hard place is, well, if I don't join them, like then maybe they won't want to be my friend anymore. Maybe they might not like me. Maybe if I was like, I don't want to be in the anime club, I want to be in the football club, they might be like, oh my God, I hate you. It seems like I was making fun, but that like could be a serious problem in your life. I understand. And then just another example from my pre-quarantine life, if I go for a run and I take path one, like there are some really steep hills, but it's beautiful and I can kind of relax even though it's a hard run. If I take path two, it's much flatter. I don't have to worry about the hills, but there are like speeding cars and they're always honking each other and cutting each other off. And I get kind of scared they're going to pull up on the sidewalk and kill me. So these are all examples of rocks and hard places. So now when I pause the video or when the video is over, I want you to imagine what superpower could help you navigate both of your obstacles. So we're going to go to this actual document together as a class, and I just want you guys to type in ideas like what superpower would help you if you were in this situation, missing your friends, wanting to see your best friend, but like her family not following the rules, or vice versa. Maybe you don't believe in it. I'm not trying to be judgmental. All right. What would you do in these situations? But what superpower could break you free of these situations? Because I want us to start thinking about turning ourselves into heroes. And your superpower could be something like crazy, like I am like antibacterial, even though it's a virus. I'm antibacterial and antiviral, so everything I touch is like sterile. That could be your superpower. Or it could be something more realistic, like I could develop a vaccine for COVID, which might not be really realistic, but you know what I'm saying. All right, so this is our challenge for the week. What is a rock and a hard place that you've been caught between? And what power could help you break free out of a similar situation?